Good morning. I'm trying to get my little mind alive and awake. Last night I was awake for quite a little stretch. It was a very fruitful time of lots of thoughts. I wonder what's going on over here. Lots of cars on Saturday morning on the road. I saw some cyclists. Maybe that's part of the deal. So the sun beat me a lot this morning through the live stream. I kind of don't know where to start in the readings today because they're very rich for our identity. Maybe we just start with the psalm. The psalm is a great place, a moment of prayer. It anchors us. And the line that's the responsorial line is, His mercy endures forever. And obviously this is difficult for people that are waiting for justice and waiting for relief from disasters. His mercy endures forever, because maybe it's not His mercy that's being experienced, at least based on our expectations and our longings, our desires. Maybe there's a lot of suffering. The Isaiah text brings a lot of balance as well into the whole, the two readings today. We have the whole context of the exodus, of leaving Egypt. And it's the leaving part. We didn't hear the explicit words about the death of the firstborn in Egypt. Something very, very, very challenging to process. The gift of life that God gives us, and the Lord is master of life. It's almost a founding moment of the people as they go into freedom, because finally the Pharaoh's resistance is broken under such dire suffering. It's a lot to process. And then all the booty that the people request from the Egyptians, who give it to them freely, silver and gold. In the haste, in the escape, that the bread wasn't properly baked, no leaven. We actually still here at Magdala serve the unleavened bread for the 8 days of Passover for the Jewish guests who would be here, should they be here for the celebration. And then we put all this text over against the Isaiah text that's quoted in the Gospel. Remembering that the summary also of the Exodus is often expressed as the Lord with outstretched hand, with power, with might, brought out his people out of Egypt. And there's this amazing text from Isaiah in the gospel text in Matthew. Behold my servant whom I have chosen, in whom my beloved, in whom I delight. I should place my spirit upon him, and he would proclaim justice to the Gentiles. Many times the sense of justice to the Gentiles is retribution for the hurt they have caused the chosen people. So right on the heels of those words, he will proclaim justice to the Gentiles. It says he will not contend or cry out. That means it's not a protest movement. It's not a rebellion. It's not a military charge against them, whom God's servant will lead. He will not contend or cry out, nor will anyone hear his voice in the streets, like protests do. A bruised reed he will not break. You know, actually the reeds are coming back here again. The water is going down. We'll see some. I see actually a bunch from here now, but I just want to find some that will be closer to get to. Maybe we just go down there to see. The petals from this tree. Ponciana tree, yellow ponciana tree. Look at the way this thing is growing into a jungle here. And there was nothing of this here, zero, a few months ago. So here we have some reeds coming along. Some very young ones right here. And some bigger ones then as we enter this jungle. And these are reeds, and you have a reed that's broken and bent over. A bruised reed he will not break. We're reading from Isaiah, quoted by Matthew's Gospel. A smouldering wick he will not quench until he brings justice to victory. And then it's not a punishment, a crushing punishment of the Gentiles, who may have done lots of injustice to God's people. And at this point also, as Christians, we can think of those who persecute the church, who kill Christians. We think of Nigeria today, and so many other countries and cultures that suppress Christianity. And that's never too far away in any culture, because Jesus himself in his birth was announced as a sign of contradiction. But he's not coming in with an army and force to impose his will. And the question that came across my mind as I read this passage again this morning was, do we educate the children? Do parents teach their children the path of meekness? And the closing line of this, a smouldering wick he will not quench until he brings justice to victory. And in his name the Gentiles will hope in this servant that God sends, all the Gentiles will place their hope in him. And this is Isaiah talking, and he's talking, when the time of the exile is, God's people are in exile. They're under the foot of the Babylonians at this point, the Persians, the Assyrians, the Egyptians, the Romans, the Greeks, all the different generations of Gentiles that opposed this little baby people that God was raising up to be the hope of the Gentiles, his servant. And if we look today across the map of the world and we see all the Gentile peoples looking at Christ crucified and saying, Lord, have mercy. We place all our trust in you. We hope in you. This is definitely one of the readings and applications of the Isaiah text we read today in Matthew. And we see Jesus crucified leading an army of saints, of holy people. And their virtue is meekness. Learn from me, for I am meek and humble of heart. This was our earlier reading in Matthew. Was that yesterday or the day before? This is at the end of chapter 11. Learn from me, for I am meek and humble of heart. Many times in many cultures today, the child is taught to be very self-affirming, build up the confidence of the child, and those are important virtues. But the virtue is always balanced on both sides, from overindulgence and from neglect and lack of involvement. It's the mean, it's balanced between two extremes. The virtue is there, and the meekness, that virtue of meekness, is such an incredible thing, and it doesn't give up on justice, but it doesn't impose it by force, by military force, by might, by death, by war. It's a very difficult temptation for us human beings. And we feel we know we're in the right and we have the power to impose. And how a child and a young person and even an adult person and an aging person can greatly benefit from the virtue of meekness. Meekness is not weakness. Meekness is actually great strength. And Isaiah delivers an amazing text in that regard here. We have that expression in English, discretion is the greater part of valor. Discretion also has a lot to do with meekness, with truth, with reality, with mercy, with gentleness. And it does not give up on justice, but it doesn't pursue it as a dictator or a despot, which would be unjust. People, God bless you. Have a beautiful day. See you later, alligators.